Give us a little history. Like on the screen, people will see NAMS Network, and I know you'll talk a little bit about what that is, but just give us a little, who is Joel Schuler and where are you headed?
Still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah.
My background's kind of all over the place. I've lived all over the place. I've done all sorts of different jobs, most of which have nothing to do with any job I do afterwards, which is kind of strange, but that's a whole long story. I grew up as a preacher's kid. My dad was an Anglican priest and still is. And luckily I still get to work with him, but we'll get to that a little bit later probably. But through one thing or another, I spent about 20 some years doing IT and tech support type work, and ultimately didn't find it very fulfilling for me. And a few years ago, through various reasons, just decided to make the jump back into working with NAMS, which is the New Anglican Missionary Society. It was started 30 some years ago by my dad. And we basically help people start churches around the world. And I'd helped volunteer here and there. Been an intern with them many, many years ago. But 3 years ago, I kind of took the plunge and started working for fundraising for them and various other roles that we'll get into. But have a real heart for, and the Missionary Society does as well, discipleship. And that's really why when I got introduced to the group that Mike started, I was so like, ooh, this would be a great group to share discipleship with. And I think it has become that for sure. So I've always had a real interest in business, but I don't come at this as a guy who owns a business. I'm just part of a missionary order. But I do see the real value and power in business's mission. And especially I think and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, the understanding that we have about discipleship, how powerful it could be in a business environment.
It's interesting, Joel, and I do want to hear more about the work you're doing with your dad. And I know you really feel privileged to work with him. I've met him only online, like I've met you. He joined 1 or 2 Fridays with us. So, Joel, I was just talking with you about discipleship, and the timing is perfect because I was on a BAM investment call earlier this morning, and the question came up from somebody who wasn't in the pitch about whether or not the woman who was pitching her business was focused on disciple making. And of course, if you'd heard the pitch, you'd know she was all about it from beginning to end. She shared how she had come to know Christ and really begun to follow him, how her passion was, and she led others to know him and obey him. So it was like, I thought, the Lord has a sense of humor because he knew you and I were going to be talking about this. But it made me think about something that I think is important in the world of business's mission. We talk about a lot of other things, very good things, job creation, breaking the chain of human trafficking, poverty alleviation, so many good things that come out of business that's done to the glory of God. And in the middle of it should be, and often is, but sometimes isn't, making disciples, the Great Commission, right? Matthew 28. That's what Jesus told us to do. It's pretty clear. What's your shot on that? Because I know you think about this and you hear us talk about BAM. What do you think?
Oh, there's a lot in that. One of the things that is a real challenge is using that word discipleship. Most people hear it and they have an idea what they think it means. And obviously the big one is evangelism. Oh, it means I got to get someone converted and get them in church. And that's definitely a part of it on one level. But that's very different than I think the understanding that we have of discipleship when you actually look in the Bible when Jesus talks about his disciples. I'm sure we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. But one of the places where I want to kind of start is, and I was thinking about this just last week, really. It really kind of struck me, Matthew 4:19, where Jesus says, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. And the picture that came to my mind immediately was, when we hear that in today's time, do we hear, oh, I'm a sport fisherman, I go out and I'll sit there all day and not catch a thing and it's great and I'll come back the next day and it's no big deal if I don't catch anything this day or that day? Is that what we picture when we hear that, as opposed to when Jesus said that? He said that he's still there? When Jesus said that, he was saying that to commercial fishermen whose lives were to catch fish. every day, if they went out and didn't catch fish, they were not making money. They were not eating. They were not feeding the family. And that's, if you look at it one way, it's kind of like, oh, this is something I can leave my life and slowly do. Whereas the other one is like, this has to be core of my life. And so I think that's one of the important things to understand is that discipleship is just meant to be a part of our life. It's not a separate thing.